Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. If you're new here and don't know me yet, I'm your host, Katie Carey, independent publisher of Books That Matter and an international best-selling author, and of course, the host of this globally ranked podcast. I help metaphysical coaches and healers gain confidence, clarity, raise their visibility and their credibility, giving them the opportunity to shine their light brighter so that the people they are here to serve can find them. I do this by creating opportunities for them to become best-selling authors in my multi-author and solo book projects. I also offer one-to-one mentorship services to help spiritual business owners find and unlock their limiting beliefs. In this podcast, I'll be sharing wisdom from myself, coaches, authors and energy healers that could be just what you need to transform your life today. You can connect with me via the Contact Katie button at my website at www.soulfulvalley.com.
You gotta love yourself with all your heart. If you don't already, it's time to start. 'Cause nothing's gonna work out until you do.
Welcome, this is Toki, Katie's podcast editor. We want to let you know that due to Katie's loss of voice, this will be the last episode until 2024. Katie has asked me to pass on all her thanks for your support of the Soulful Poems book launch, which reached Amazon as a #1 international bestseller. Katie and I wish you all a wonderful Christmas and a transformational 2024. Katie will be back sometime in January with the rest of the Energy of Money series. Now, back to the episode you came here to listen to.
Katerina Barrie is a multifaceted entrepreneur and businesswoman. Among her titles are Psychic Mentor for Women, founder and CEO of Know Thyself brand, which served as a holding company for folds and balm and other initiatives. Art model and plus-size fashion influencer, published author, accredited public speaker, and actress featured in large-scale TV productions and low-budget indie films. Executive saleswoman and managing partner of Painting Charleston LLC. A New Century Scholar Award recipient. Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast, Katerina.
Hi, how are you guys?
Oh, it's great to have you on, Katerina. I've been in one of your experiences, I'll call it, because it was a bit of a wonderful experience. It wasn't anything like, it's not a coaching course, is it? It's just a really beautiful experience. So for our listeners, can you just explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Katerina Barrie. I am a professional psychic and I'm a multi-dimensional entrepreneur. I have several businesses that I'm part of. Some are product-oriented, some are more service-oriented. My line of work as a psychic is based around working as in the capacity of a mentor for women. And this is kind of my one-on-one realm, but I also create experiences for people. And one of my signature offerings that is very unique and different is the Folds money ritual, or as we're transitioning to just calling it the Folds now. And so what it is, it's an experience where a person comes in, if they haven't been exposed to it before, they have no idea what's going to happen. And they are invited to decide what they want to financially contribute. No amount is too small or too high. It is entirely up to the participant. There are some additional ways to participate on the higher scales of investment, but again, it's entirely up to the person joining to decide what they essentially want to pay. And the premise of the whole experience is, as you're going through it, you're watching your contribution multiply and turn into what we call tenfold. So without getting too deep into the specifics, the point of this experience is to learn to look at money in your life completely differently. What we've been taught is to count what we make financially from your job, from your business, whatever it is. If you're a business owner, that you end up paying yourself, or whatever your employer pays you in a more traditional job setting. And in reality, the money that comes through our life, that shows up in our life, is vastly greater than just that transaction of your labor, your effort, your hard work in exchange for money. There are so many different ways in which money shows up in our life. And so the way that I've designed the folds is it's meant to open the eyes of the participant to all of these new ways in which they may have never even noticed money showing up in their life, and to acknowledge it, to count it, to create a connection with it, and to develop this gratitude, and also to develop this new identity of not just like I'm getting paid X amount of dollars or euros or whatever it is per hour, but instead I am a conduit for so much wealth in abundance that circulates in the world, and I am a significant piece, and I have this relationship with money already. So let me see where I can take it. So it's a transformative experience, and I'm so glad that you got to be part of it. So I would love for you to share with us in this interview what your experience was like.
I absolutely will. I really want to. So how I came across you in the first place was magical in itself, and I tend to follow my intuition. I don't just jump into things just because it's got a label with money on it or whatever it is. And you kept showing up in the top of my feed, and it was constant. So at first I saw your post and the images, which were beautiful. I was like, oh, that looks nice. I like the sound of that. But I carried on and I carried on. And it was just constantly you were there right at the top every time. And then I saw the start date, and the start date was June the 21st. And it was the 30th anniversary of my dad passing away that day. And the more it kept coming to the top of my feed, the more I knew I was supposed to be there. And once I got into your container, it was obvious to me that I was supposed to be there because there were other people who had had things going on that were similar to that experience of mine. So I knew I was meant to be there. And then the actual experience itself, it was beautiful, and it was the way it's like a game, isn't it? It's like we were playing a game. So I think a lot of people are really serious about money. It has just become this really serious topic that most people want to avoid. But for me, the folds, it just opened me up wide to recognizing all of the gifts that were coming into my life that had a financial value that I'd not paid attention to before. So my participation in it, I invested, and by the end of, was it 3 months?
Yeah, it's 3 months at a time.
By the end of the 3-month container, it had tenfolded. And not in ways that I'd have thought. But it was amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah. So, listeners, if you ever get the chance to go and have a look at this, I will definitely be putting links in the show notes for Katerina. I highly recommend you go and play.
Yes, we have a wait list open for winter. So usually it begins December is a start date, then March, and then June, and then September is kind of how it goes, and 3 months at a time.
And I missed the autumn, but I have to say I've kept up with it because I found it so magnificent.
That's beautiful. I love hearing that, and
I've kept up with it because it works.
There is something that I want to publish, which is the method of counting all the money that comes into your life, and that's something that I think can be separate from the experience in just the way that you start maybe integrating this new perception of money. Instead of just looking what you make, you're looking at all these other ways in which money is showing up. So I'm looking forward to sharing more of that with the world. And of course, everyone's open to explore the folds. It's a very easy experience to enter on your terms, because again, you decide essentially how much you contribute to be part of it. And it's something that awaits individual exploration, I think is the best way to describe it, because everyone ends up walking away with a personal experience that is just theirs. And at the same time, there is a community aspect to it as well.
Thank you, Katerina. This show is a show about the energy of money, which is why I wanted you to be a guest, because that's what that experience is about. So I've come up with a few questions that I wanted to ask, and we'll start with this one. Can you share any personal experiences or insights on how the energy of money has impacted your own business or financial mindset?
This is such an amazing question, and it actually takes me back to just even the origins of the interest that I took in the energy of money. Because as many people have, we grow up with beliefs that our family holds around money and our society, our community. And I grew up in Russia, and I moved to United States at the age of 15, and so now I'm 30. So half of my life over in Russia and half of my life here in the United States. And it happened so that my journey in either setting was very much full of people being very fearful around money and feeling very limited. And there came a point where I was living in the city where most people didn't really make much money. And so being cool was kind of associated with being broke. Like everyone is broke. So, if you're like everyone, then, there's like this sense of almost community around it. And so I remember really taking on that identity. I was like, well, I didn't see any positive examples financially around, the topic of money. And now it's even like there's like a whole community that's like, we're all broke, let's just live today like there is no tomorrow. And so what ended up happening is actually I had a corporate job. Then that ended and I started my own business. I wanted to kind of venture out. I was providing like marketing services for small businesses, and my relationship with money was the absolute worst. I was not making any of it. I was in such a place that I couldn't charge anything for my work. Like I didn't think that it was worth anything, or I actually was worth anything. And it got to a pretty bad point where I had this very like a dichotomy, like this big contrast of like, I want to be financially successful. I want to find a way to develop a relationship with money, but I felt like it was like non-existent or very, very, very negative. And so anything I tried to learn from, let's say like Tony Robbins or other teachers and coaches, and I'm very interested always in education and continuously seeking out new information, new wisdom. But none of it was resonating. Like the way that money works, the way that financial markets work, supply and demand, business economics, like nothing was touching the actual feeling I had about money, or this worth, this inner relationship with worth and money, right? So my life's journey took me to like a spiritual path. And my biggest question was like, where does the money fit in spirituality? Because it has to be. And in studying tarot, I discovered specifically in studying tarot, I discovered that money is actually a spiritual concept. It is a spirit of matter. It's money in itself doesn't really exist. Like I can say this makeup brush is money because I paid, let's say, $30 to get it at some point, right? So anything can be money if you assign value to it. But the fact that you can assign value to something And money represents that notion in itself, like the medium of exchange. That is a spiritual concept. So anything that is material, you can then assign value to, even like a piece of land or a structure that you cannot move. You can assign value to it and you can exchange it for money or other goods. So that concept in itself, the money, is the spirit of matter. And so once I started looking at money as something that is deeply meaningful and in fact complex, it's like, how do you understand that? How do you dive into this concept and how do you use that, right? So that journey took me from being an entrepreneur who couldn't charge for my services to someone who uncovered so much there that I now feel that it's a huge part of my purpose to teach on it. So essentially, spiritual relationship with money, discovering the energetics of money, changed absolutely everything for me. The concepts and ideas that were not accessible to me to even contemplate became curious, because there was now this unique pathway to considering, like, it's not just money. It's a symbol for this entire world, the material world. So how do I build a relationship with matter? How do I build a relationship with the physical reality, with my body, with the things, the physical things I surround myself with the things that I create and offer to the world? How do I create a relationship for the world to interact with me and for me to interact with it through financial language, through the language of exchange, through the currency? So let me know how I'm doing with answering your question.
That was wonderful. And it brings up things for me like when you say about it being spiritual, and I'm noticing a lot more spiritual people are understanding this now. For a long time, we've thought, or circles of spiritual people have thought, that it was wrong to charge. So we've come in with this thing of feeling that we have to give our gifts away. Then you're not in a position where you can build a community or the creations that you're here to build, because you haven't got the resources. So just re-educating people around that it's not bad to charge money. I run a charity as well, so I also did a lot for years for nothing. But that didn't help people in the long run. So totally understand where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, this is such a great segue into a topic that I think relates to our relationship with money and our relationship with self-worth and our relationship with even like what we are allowed to do in this life. And this is a spiritual concept that is more feminine in nature, more matriarchal in nature, that has been, if you ask me, that's just a personal opinion, I think it was removed purposefully. Not like some one big bad masterminding guy, somewhere decided. No, but it's like over time, I think there was a purpose that this kind of eradicating of this philosophy has served. And so what is the philosophy? The philosophy is, in this life, in this body. Because a lot of these teachings, and I'm not going to dive into the different philosophies here, but a lot of the teachings that we get exposed to in organized religion, and even in kind of understanding the moral theories of what's good, what's bad, what's a good character, what's a bad character, right? There's a lot of the idea that this life is not important. This life is for suffering, it's for self-denial, it is for restriction. If you are suffering and if you're limited and if you're having these horrendous hardships in life, you are going to heaven, or you are going to get rewards in somewhere else in some time after you die. And then there is another thing, which is like everything of the body, the pleasure, the the experiences that are physical, the experiences that engage our senses, the sensual, the pleasure filled, that's also all considered to be base level, sinful, not evolved, very degrading. And so with these philosophies going hand in hand, a lot of people have been conditioned to feel ashamed and guilty of even considering doing something with this life, such as accumulating wealth or creating something meaningful in this reality for this life, for people who are living here and now. Because it's like, what's the point? There's another timeline, there's another life, there's something else out there. And so when we kind of turn these teachings around, a lot of times it's the artists, it's the people who have a gift, it's the people who are musicians, or they are creatives, or they are perhaps spiritual advisors, or they just have this unique expression about themselves that makes people feel a certain way or experience something. That's the kind of people that get told, like, just do it for exposure, just do it for experience, just do it because you are gifted. If it's a gift, then you should give it away for free. But it goes back to this thing. It's like, if you have a gift in this life, then the idea is that you are here to use it. And let's even go a step further. If it's divine plan, whatever your beliefs are, if it's part of the divine plan that you should be here in this body and have this life, then it's not a mistake and it's not a punishment. It's like, how can we not see that it's the ultimate gift, that this is what we know, this is what we get to work with, and taking that back and claiming, like, no, this body, this life, I am here and it's me. I am unique. I am different. I am whoever I am. I am an individual. I have this life. I have this body. It's finite. It's not going to last forever. Things change all the time. And so in given all of this, knowing that it's not forever, why don't I create something incredible? Why don't I share my gifts with the world? Why don't I allow other people to benefit from what has been given to me? And why don't I create wealth so that to give my creations a bigger platform, so that they can reach more people, so that I can use my own discernment and effect change that will benefit others? Why can't we trust ourselves that we are perfect vessels to create a different world? And why can't we take that step further and acknowledge that in order for me to create change, I'm going to need resources to do that? And so I'm giving myself full permission to go after these resources and to accumulate them and to put them to good use, instead of leaning back and waiting for some other life and accepting whatever it is that's happening in the meanwhile, being so frustrated because it's like everyone has a vision for something that they are passionate about. Mm-hmm. So that vision, it deserves to be materialized, and in order to be materialized, it requires material resources.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned creatives, then I've had this experience. So as well as being in coaching and healing and all of the things that I did with the charity as well, I've had this before as a teenager when I was a singer. And often people would be reaching out to me to do charitable gigs, to the point where there were more charitable gig requests coming than paid gig requests. So it is exactly the same for creative artists, as well as in spiritual healing circles. Mm-hmm. But then people have gifts in all kinds of areas where it's okay to receive money. So why is that? Like, it always seems to be the creatives that are expected
I think
to stay in struggle.
I will say that for me, I mostly work with women. There are some exceptions here and there, but my target audience, my target demographic for the work that I'm here to do is women. And with women specifically, I see that it goes so deep, it goes so deep because like even motherhood is not considered work. Even that, like, okay, even the basic things that women have been expected to provide for centuries upon centuries, there is this expectation that it's like should just be given, And I find that having worked mostly with women in this realm, it's very difficult for women to monetize aspects of their life that they're easily, far advanced in or skilled in, and can definitely offer and provide a lot of value by teaching people or by, even just sharing these gifts, right, with people. Whatever realm it is in, it's almost the answer is like, but I'm not qualified, but I'm not, a big corporation, but I don't have the training, I don't have the certificate. Meanwhile, even the same organized religious structures, they have no trouble accepting money, however it's presented, whether it's like, okay, you should hand, or else just let's not play with, potentially going to a place you don't want to go to in your afterlife. You should maybe be, donating 10%, just saying, to be on the safe side, right? So however it's presented, these organized, these machines, because why? Because it's not just one person. There's like organizations, these structures, these machines that operate through levels of our society, such as, organized belief systems, such as big corporations. These existing structures, they have a very systemized way of collecting money. And, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way it is. But what's interesting to me is like the person who is the perfect medium of, sharing a skill, a talent. Maybe they're a voice teacher, maybe they cook, maybe they have a cooking show, maybe they're thinking about it, maybe they have a book in them that they want to write, maybe they have a gift, maybe they're just really great at holding space, right? And so all of this, once you start doing it from the goodness of your heart, you realize like, I love this so much, I could be doing this for free. People get used to you doing it for free, but there comes a time where I think this is up to every person, and women, of course, most especially included, where, you for yourself as an individual have to make a decision. You have to essentially say like, yes, I love this so much. It is a gift of mine. I love it so much. I could do it for free, and I have, and people clearly seem to value it. Now I'm going to value it. Now I'm no longer looking for that validation. I'm going to value it because I know I have this gift, and I'm going to value it so much that I'm going to charge for it. And I'm going to just very briefly mention it, but here's where you start also doing a favor for the other person who actually purchases your service or your creation from you. Because the people that put something on the line when it comes to wanting to acquire something, that is a move that communicates value. When someone accepts your price, or even in introductory phases, or in settings like with the folds. Personally, for folds, I prefer that the person decides the amount they contribute, because it's an important power move there. You can say, pay what you want, or you can say, here's the price. When the person either accepts your price or puts a value on it themselves and say, okay, I'll pay this much, and you accept, this is a protected relationship. And what I mean by protected, I'm not talking about the legalities. I'm talking about energetically protected, because the value is clearly communicated on both ends. You're saying, I value myself, I value this gift, service, whatever it is, this creation. So it is exchangeable for another value, which would be money. The other person buying it from you says, I accept that it's valuable. It's valuable for me. I'm willing to part with my resource of money in order to acquire this thing that I value. I value it more than the money I'm willing to give for it. So it makes sense, right? The protection comes from both parties consenting that whatever it is that they're engaging in is valuable. And when we discredit our own work and we continue doing it for free, even though it doesn't feel good anymore, this is a concept that took me a long time to learn. We're paying for it twice, because the first time you're paying for it is when you're doing it for free. The second time you're paying for it is when you have finished doing it for free and you have that feeling of like, but what about me? And there's nothing.
And the energy of resentment, that drops. Set in. Katerina, can you share any tips or advice for individuals who are looking to shift their relationship with money and integrate spirituality into their financial journey?
Yeah, I would say one of the most important steps here is to create some space between what you are considering money to be money, right? So if you're used to looking at your bank account and, and it's every time you look, you have this sinking feeling. Or, there's maybe a situation where, you're overworking and you're getting paid a certain amount of work. And, every time you're like, maybe something will change, but it continues to be the same situation. So you have this charged relationship with money already. Is usually when we're like, okay, how do I freaking change this? Because it's killing me. So what you need to do is you need to step away from just thinking that is money. Okay, that's money. It is, but it's not the only way that money is in your life, and I promise you. So these are some interesting exercises. We do a lot of them in Folds, but I just want to give you guys a little taste. So I want you to start looking at every single time someone does something for you that you don't have to pay for yourself. So whether like a friend of yours said, hey, I'm going to the gas station, or a roommate or whatever neighbor, do you need something? And they brought you and you were like, let me pay you. They were like, no, please don't, like, let me just, give it to you. Or maybe a colleague bought you coffee. Or maybe someone in front of the line of, drive-through paid for your meal, or you went to a grocery store and you got a discount, right? So anytime you receive something that you would expect to pay for, but you didn't have to, and maybe you weren't even expecting the thing, it's like a surprise, a little gift. Maybe it doesn't need to cost much, but start seeing that as like money is making its way into your life. So notice this and maybe even start keeping track a little bit. Maybe write it down. Like, my colleague bought me coffee today. I'm thinking maybe it's probably like $3 or $5, write it down. Like, oh, it's interesting. Money showed up in my life through another person, through the generosity of someone else. And also, one of the biggest things that kind of really helped me reconsider the situation I was in is the way that you look at debt as well. That can weigh heavily on us. But anytime that I pay my debt off, anytime I make a payment, and it's like, yeah, I could be buying something else, obviously, but here I go, here comes the payment. I like to look at it as like, that's money that's becoming available again. It's almost like I'm setting that money free. It was tied up. I already spent it, first of all. So whatever that credit was for, I spent it. So however I feel about the thing I bought, whether it's education or something else, it's like, whatever their experience was at the time, I was like, I'm doing this. I don't have the money for it. I'm going to put it on, credit. And whatever my experience with it was, I could have it without even having the money for it. How amazing is that, first of all? So just be grateful. Find some gratitude for it. And even if it was like a medical expense or something that you would rather not even have to deal with, still, like, how important is your health? It's your life. It's your education. It's your choices. It's your lifestyle. Like, that is valuable, that you couldn't have the money for it, but the money showed up for you to begin with. So that's amazing. But then every time you make a payment, try thinking of it. It's like, I'm actually freeing that money up. If I needed it again, it would still be there for me. I'm just setting it free. And then the final tip I'll give here is, this is important too, is anytime that money comes back to you, anything that you were able to get back or something that you didn't expect, or anytime that maybe you didn't get something correctly and you bring it back to the store and money just returns to you, a tax refund, something that comes back to you where it's like, I wasn't even doing anything to earn it or to deserve it, but it found its way back to me. So doing these little things, at first it might feel like, okay, that's a little slow, but it creates enough of a gap there for you to start seeing money not as just a stress factor or not as something that you keep looking at and it's not changing. Instead, you're like, oh, there are little ways that it flows in. Oh, there are these blessings that are coming in. Oh, there are these ways that I can reframe certain things that are obligatory and maybe a little heavy. And with that, you're going to start discovering that there's a lot more that you can do with the way that you perceive your relationship with money. And with that comes the next phase, which is, what is the direction that I want my relationship with money to go? How do I want to feel about it? And then creating experiences that will support that further.
Beautiful. Thank you for that answer. How do you navigate the challenges or resistance that may arise when introducing spiritual concepts into the world of entrepreneurship and finance?
This is a really good question, because I think that a lot of the finance world, a lot of the business world, it is still, and again, I'm going back to the feminine and masculine energetics, and neither one of them is more important than the other, and neither one of them is right or wrong. But I find that a lot of the business world is very heavily operating in this kind of masculine energy paradigm. And so what do I mean by this? I would mean it would mean to me that it's an organized kind of approach, hierarchical. So there is this top-down, structure usually where someone's at the top, and there are people, kind of like a pyramid going down levels, and there's a lot of systemization with now AI as well. There's a lot that is being automated, and that's fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but this very rational, this scaled, this highly systemized approach, it allows very little room for continued innovation and creativity. And this is why a lot of businesses and establishments that are more traditionally organized nowadays, we see them, inviting speakers and inviting experts and inviting, meditation gurus for the break between the meetings. And so there is this kind of like, so the structure works, the organization works, this kind of highly detailed plan in a way that traditional businesses operate. It works, but there's something that ends up being kind of like constantly missing, which is, how do you care for every person that is part of your organization as an individual? How do you, and this is speaking from a business standpoint, how do you, financially speaking, capitalize on the creativity and the inherent genius of every single person that works for a company? Because every single person is their own resource, essentially. So when you highly kind of systematize people, and there's this very defined hierarchical structure, and everyone knows their role and everyone knows their place, and they're supposed to operate in this kind of constrained way, usually what you get is decreased performance over time, because the person is like, okay, but what's my worth? What's my value? What am I doing with my life here? So how do you increase the quality of life of every employee? How do you tap into their creative potential? How do you give them space to be creative and to be open and suggest things and maybe challenge things and question things that aren't working, which in the long run would only benefit the company? So I'm kind of going backwards in response to your question, is the pushback is obvious. It's like, who are you? Who do you think you are? What are you talking about? This is all, woo stuff. Like, who cares? That's going to be the response until it changes.
Yeah.
And it will change when the company is like, actually, we have no idea where to even start, but we know there's something more that's not our area of specialty, and let's see who can even, get us started on, looking at all these other things that are available, and for us to maximize essentially, the retention of the employees, the quality of their lives, the productivity and the creativity and the expression of them. So I think the shift is occurring on its own. And I think, it's important if some of our listeners are in this realm of being like more like energy workers, or being more intuitive, or working more with the energetics of things like money, or things like, expression or creation, or even productivity in itself. I think it's time to kind of really be bold about what you do, because I believe that the more we progress in time, the more even the most traditional organizations are going to be like, what is there to human potential? What more does the human potential hold? And if we look at the human potential, if we look at what we're truly capable of as creators, we cannot bypass energetics. We cannot bypass, well-being. We cannot bypass spiritual concepts that help us understand the very human nature. So, if you are in this realm and you're like, how do I approach these big companies? And I think I have some solutions for them. Be outspoken about what you do, and go ahead and just reach out. You might not necessarily get an immediate yes, but I think with time they will circle back. And this has happened to me, and say like, actually, we've had a conversation a long time ago. Do you remember? And also, actually, now, there's something that maybe you're the fit for. So don't be afraid to initiate these conversations, and don't be afraid of rejection, because it's only part of the progress of a sales relationship. It's getting rejected is only a step in a sales relationship. It's not necessarily the end. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Wow, what an answer. I didn't expect you to go there.
I didn't expect myself to go there either, to be quite honest.
I'm glad you did, because how many places are there where people are so silenced, or they feel like they can't express who they really are and what they really believe and what they could bring to the table? And this has happened to me in a job where I was working with someone that we just both were no good at communicating with each other at all, until one day this person told me that they were going to have a psychic reading. Like, well, whoa, we're on the same wavelengths.
That's beautiful. I love that.
But how many people are fascinated with the spiritual world, but are scared to talk about it because they're worried about what people might think about?
Well, and there's still a lot of there's a lot of stigma around it still, but I think one of the shifts that we've already seen a little bit is after the pandemic, people who have lost jobs, or who have their jobs were, limited or cut back, there's this definite understanding that having a job and a business is a good way to go, because you never know which one what's going to happen where. So I think the companies are having to be more accepting of people having side hustles on the side. And with that being said, there's still definitely more room for this kind of freedom of, wherever you work, being able to say, what you believe, what you're interested in, what you do. Still, there's some censorship, but I think with time, there's just going to be more freedom, because it's like, yeah, I work here, but I also have a life, and also, you never know what's going to happen. So, I have things in place, and I think the workplaces have to be accepting of it, if they want happy employees.
What a wonderful place it'll be when we have a world like that.
Well, and we are co-creating it, so we may not
We are.
get to enjoy it, but we from another from the other world, which is apparently so much better.
Yeah.
I don't really know about that, but no, but from that higher place, we'll say, hey, we helped build this. So,
Yeah.
a little bit of Halloween horror as humor.
Oh, I love that we're doing this on Halloween as well.
On Halloween, yes. Perfect.
What are your hopes or visions for the future of spiritual entrepreneurship and the energy of money in the collective consciousness?
I think that the energy of money is so powerful. It's really meant to be a birthright for humanity to freely have access to it, to use it for creation, to use it for building a better world, to use it for research and development and expansion and art and advancement of our civilization. The money is innocent. This is what I truly believe. Money is innocent. It is a frequency similar to a frequency of a soul. It's neither bad nor good. It has no character of its own. It has no qualities of a human being by any means. It is simply like electricity. It is like air. It's something that exists, but it's only something that exists in our consciousness. And this is why it's so mind-boggling to me that such huge proportions of humanity have no access to resources and to financial resources and no real way of understanding or building wealth, and not even an entry point, to start on that journey. And even if they do come about some entry point, it's like the conditioning and what they know about money is so counter intuitive to the nature of it that they may end up in a worse place. It's wild to me. So how would I see that change? It's hard to imagine how this could be like changed very quickly. But for me, I think going to the origin of where money comes from, and even like we can do this individually and hopefully as a collective as well. But going back to the origin of, we exchanged things for things. We exchanged goods for services. We exchanged salt for, animal hide. We exchanged things that we had for things that we wanted. And that was available to absolutely every human, because that's you didn't have to think about whether it's available or not. It's just what you do. You see someone have something that you need, and you might have something that they need, and it's like it makes sense. But that's a very human creation. That's a human concept. So money, this frequency, only humans can see it. Only us can operate, and animals don't have any use for it. Plants don't have any use for it. Only we can exchange with each other on a conscious level of like, you have something I value and I have something you value, and we have a deal. So when we get back to this base understanding that there's no such thing as a person, a human being who doesn't deserve money, who isn't worthy of money, who isn't worthy of being paid, who is meant to be poor, who is, in some way cursed when it comes to money. It is simply impossible. It is a concept that only humans hold, and no human is excluded from it. So even just having that so deeply anchored in, and reiterating that every time something comes up, like, oh, I don't deserve to be paid for this, or, oh, money, I don't have a good thing with money because my family and so and this happened and that happened. It's like every time these stories come up, it's like, no, this is a very simple, innocent human concept, and I am human, so that means I cannot be excluded from this. It's simply the exchange. And then going to see money as something more than just, I think one of the biggest anchors we have is like, I have to work hard, and I have to suffer, I have to struggle in order to be paid something. But it's like, but you have so much value and so much worth. So if you accept that you're valuable and worthy, and you look at yourself through that perspective, what is something that you truly value about yourself, that you value so much that you love it, you love doing it, you want to do this in this world, it makes you happy, it pleases you, it makes you feel proud. What if that was the source of receiving value that matches just how much value you can give to the world? And so a lot more people, my vision is a lot more people, as many people as possible, seeing themselves as valuable and worthy enough to exchange what their most valuable gifts are for the most value with the world. And I think just that alone would be a completely different humanity if that was the case. It's a different world. So, but no matter how long it takes, I'm willing to hold space for this vision and take the steps that are needed to help bring this paradigm about.
How do you maintain a sense of detachment and non-attachment to financial outcomes while still actively working towards financial growth and success?
This is maybe the hardest question of them all, because this came through for me recently. It's a very auspicious, how our interview aligned with this kind of realization that I was getting. And the realization was that there are two ways to go about manifesting things. One of the ways is control. It's possible. It's not easy, because it's like when you want to do something and you look out, you were gonna go and have a photo shoot today, and it's raining outside, it's storming, there's a hurricane. Your photographer's like, hey, can we reschedule? This is like something crazy is going on, and you realize your dress is stuck in transit. You were going to have it by today, but you don't. So just a hypothetical situation where everything goes wrong. And you can, through your sheer will, say, screw it, I'm having my photo shoot. I'm going to do it in a different dress. I'm going to photograph myself, screw the photographer. I'm going to do it right in the rain, in the storm. And the rest of the world can F off, because I'm doing what I set my mind. Like, I am doing it. You can do this. Like, there are so many ways that we do control so much in our life. And we use this will to force things to happen. But the problem with that is that while you're standing in the middle of the storm, photographing yourself in a completely different outfit, you might just get this feeling like, that's not why I was doing this though. Like, I wanted to feel a certain way. There's a reason I picked out the dress. There's a reason I picked out that photographer and the spot and the weather. Like, I was supposed to feel this way. And yes, now I made it still happen, but the feeling isn't there. So we always have a choice to, okay, doesn't matter what's going on, whether the timing is right or not, I am doing it and do things through this sheer force. The only downside is a lot of times we wonder, like, why am I even doing this? Like, this isn't how I thought I would feel. And this is a lot of times what happens with force. Now, there's a different pathway. There's a pathway of, I'm going to trust and I'm going to let go of my expectation of how exactly and when exactly it's going to happen. And the hardest part of this option is, the more you want it, the more you have to let it go. Because the more intensely you want the thing, the more there is the sense of urgency. But like, could I maybe just force things just like right now? Because like, I really want it to happen. Like, could I just kind of manipulate things around it just to make sure that it happens? There's this temptation to like, how do I control? But if you're going about the second route, which is surrender the control, let it happen in the most beautiful way, let go of the expectation, let it happen when it happens. The benefit is that usually it feels even more amazing than you even imagined. It's like, that's the prize, is like, this is even better than I could even have thought. And yes, now in hindsight that it's all happening, it makes sense why it didn't happen on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or even Sunday. And it's happening right now on Monday, and like, it could not have been better, and now I get why, right? So in hindsight, you get this like, oh, it all makes sense. But in the process, the hardest piece is the more you want it, the more you have to let it go. Because it's like, no, but I want it so bad. I want to make sure it happens. No, let it go. And so that dance can be difficult. But so can be the dance that is the sheer force of like how much you have to overcome to still make something happen that's clearly not happening. There might be a little disappointment, but we do have great will, and we can affect reality on that level to a degree, of course. But we do have the capacity to make things happen. But do you want to make things happen? Or do you want it to happen in a way that it's even better than you imagined? For me, the outcome that I desire is definitely the second option. I always want that feeling of like, this is even better than I thought. But it requires such tremendous deal of trust, and it's difficult. And in choosing this pathway of surrendering the detachment and letting things come to me, there is self-discipline that you develop, because you have to keep your ego in check, and you have to say, yes, I could force things now, but I'm not going to, because I am actually choosing, a higher timeline. I'm choosing something that is coming to me in a way that is not just about me and my ego and my sense of urgency, but it's coming to me in divine timing, in the way that is best for me. I trust that the universe has my best interests in mind. So this does require, I think, some spiritual discipline, and it can be developed over time. But for our listeners, I would say if you're facing you have a manifestation in mind, and there's something you really want to either experience or create, and you have a choice of like really doubling down on like making it happen for yourself, no matter what, at a specific date and time. Or you have a choice of like, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to keep connected with it. I'm going to keep desiring it, but I'm not going to force it or control it. I am going to be anticipating its arrival to me in the perfect divine timing. Try that option. You can always go back to pushing and forcing. Try the other one and see what happens, because you might actually be kind of blown away by how much this greater awareness, this greater consciousness that we are all connected to, how much it wants you to feel supported, because we all are.
Absolutely. And I loved that, because the last book that we just launched, my chapter was called I Surrender, because that was
Oh, I love that.
that was where I needed to come to.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Things like book collaborations as well. You've got people coming from all over the world with different levels of expectations. And with a book called Co-Creating with the Divine, it was literally going with the flow. So we really had to lean back into how the book unfolded, and the people coming in and their chapters unfolded. And the process it took well over a year. Normally, in a book collaboration, people are pushing them out in a couple of months just as a quick marketing tool, but this was different.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, awesome. A final question that I have for you, Katerina. Can you share any stories or examples of how your spiritual practices have directly influenced your financial decision-making process?
Yeah, so this goes back to the folds and essentially the process that I teach there, which is tracking all the ways in which money comes into your life. I decided that first of all, I created this whole experience for myself. I wasn't planning on sharing it with anyone else. I do a lot of ritual work. I would identify as a witch. So my spiritual practice, it's not really restricted by any specific belief system. And I pursue various spiritual concepts and knowledge as an esoteric scholar. So there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of trial, there's a lot of experimentation. And ritual work is a very direct way of communicating with the divine. Essentially, it's very intimate, it's very personal. Whoever practices ritual work, a great deal of it has to come from your own association, your own ideas, your own understanding of the meaning of things and the symbolism of certain things. It's all very personal. And so in practicing ritual work, I discovered that it's a great way to kind of create this sort of a container that holds space for whatever it is that you're working on. Maybe it's, connecting deeper to yourself, self-love, or maybe it's your practice of, currently I'm holding a completion ritual for myself. So I have a lot of things that are incomplete. When there's this feeling of like I'm overwhelmed, I don't want to complete them because there's this attachment, like, but what about this thing? And when it ends, I don't want it to end. So there's a lot of this kind of tender energy. So I realized, this is a perfect setting for a ritual. So I'm having this space that is just basically holding space for myself. Like I'm taking these few days to complete things. And I'm probably going to feel vulnerable. I'm probably going to want to stop and get distracted and do something else. But every time I see this little ritual setup that I have and the candle burning and everything, I'm like, no, this is a special time right now. I'm completing things. So it's essentially something that a practice that brings you back to your intention and amplifies your intention, because you're not just doing it alone. You're not just in your head with yourself. You're having this space, this ceremonial space that is meant to support you. So Folds is a ritual that is all about money, and having the space created in this concept that I teach and practice has set this environment for me that has been actually going on for over a year and a half now. That's when I started running the Folds, and I've been running every season consecutively, 3 months at a time, but not ever like breaking for a season. So having held this space for myself and for the people I work with for over a year and a half, this has become part of my identity. My relationship with money is no longer something I think about. I don't have to remind myself to track all the ways in which money is showing up in my life. I do this as a default setting, like brushing my teeth or not forgetting to eat, right? It's like I can't forget that. It's part of my identity. And so making my relationship with money and then paying attention to it part of my identity through ritual work, because there's constantly a space that's held for it, constantly something reminds me of it. I have realized that my standard of living has completely changed. Can I say that I am tremendously richer in terms of the financial assets that I currently hold? In that year and a half? Not really, no. But can I say that everything about my life, my spending, the things that I buy, and even the way that I treat them, the way that I feel about them, can I say that all of that has changed forever? 100%. It's even as simple as taking things for granted, which, is very natural for us humans. We get something we really want, we really wanted it, we really cared about it when we wanted it. But when we got it, all of a sudden it's like, well, we have it now. What's the next thing that I want?
Yeah, chase the next thing.
Right. So, valuing things that you have, that's such a powerful practice. It only attracts more things that you will value. And so even the way that I walk out of my apartment and approach my car, and I always dreamed of driving a car like this. It's not the most expensive, it's not the newest one on the market, but it's perfect for me. So whereas I would have hopped on and just gone on my way running errands, now every time I would just stop and admire it, and I stand there and I'm like, I am driving this car. I've had it for over a year, it has a few little dents on it that could use some fixing, but it's like I'm standing there and I'm going like, I get to drive the car of my dreams. Meanwhile, it's like a normal Tuesday, and I'm going somewhere to run. Like none of it. This is the biggest thing that I will share here. The world will not stop to give you this epic moment of like, ta-da, you have figured it out. It's like, or you have achieved your dream. This is your special moment, and everyone's like, that doesn't happen. But that doesn't mean that you don't get to create that for yourself. So celebrating the things that you already have and reminding yourself to value the things that you wanted for so long and you already have now, and even just tracking all the ways in which you are blessed constantly, all the ways in which money shows up in your life. It helps you perceive the relationship differently. And so what I will say, one of the biggest changes has been becoming a truly wealthy woman. The way that I so identify with myself is I am infinitely abundant, I am wealthy, and I'm rich. And what that is expressed in is just how rich I feel with every blessing that is already part of my life, and just how grateful and excited I feel with the ones that are coming, the trust that they are coming, the knowing that they are, the constantly seeking and finding evidence that supports that, is a radical difference from the girl I used to be, feeling guilty, ashamed, and completely unworthy of asking a business owner to pay $100 for an online ad. This is like such a world of difference. So, for me, the ritual, just to kind of summarize the ritual work, the spiritual work, the energy work, it actually has the capacity to change our self-identity, our perception of reality, much more effectively than just a concept or reading a book or just hearing an idea, because we're working with subconscious when it comes to energy, when it comes to rituals. We're working with the realm of dreams, the symbols, the beliefs, the things that we attach meaning to. And so when we're able to change the meanings, when we're able to change our beliefs, when we're able to change even our self-concept, our life, our physical material life reflects that back to us. So you do wake up in almost like a different world that was your world before, except maybe you couldn't see it. And that alone can be life-changing.
I've got tears rolling down my face listening to that, because for me as well, it is all about how you feel, isn't it? It's all about the wealth within and the deservability. And that's massively changed my life in the last couple of years as well. So you really brought tears to my eyes. From somebody who I had a torturous relationship with money, because as a child, I grew up in a household where there was physical violence and it was always over money. So it's taken me over 5 decades to get over that and to change, even though I changed it consciously with all of the money mindset and did a conscious work around it for the last 4 years. It's only been probably the last year where internally there's been a shift, a big shift. And I loved your money folds. That made it just so joyful.
I'm so happy to see that. It's interesting. I think that however things take so long, for me, things take such a long time. Sometimes certain things take no time, certain things take forever, and sometimes it's like I know this thing, I got this skill. It's taken me forever. Now I know it. Now there's like a whole another skill that I would need to even use that skill. There's just, the journey seems to be so long, but over time, every single thing that we learn supports all the other things. So, I've kind of trained myself to look at it that I really don't care how long anything will take. What I care about is how much fun I'm having while it's all happening.
Yes. Katerina, is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't already spoken about today?
Well, I'll just one thought here is, I think for our listeners, I would like to share a very important message, very simple, but I wish I could tell it to myself, and other people have told me it. I just couldn't hear it. So my hope is that you can hear it. Is don't be hard on yourself, because it's like we have these beliefs that certain beliefs are so deeply ingrained that it's like you're not even thinking the thoughts that you're thinking. Your thoughts are thinking you. You cannot stop them. They are there. They've been there. You're doing your best to get to the bottom of where they even come from and get rid of that stuff. And it's not good for you. And it's all such a journey. And what we often end up doing is we make it harder on ourselves, but by actually also beating ourselves up in the process. Like this should be faster. This should have happened yesterday. I shouldn't have done this and this. And so, and that creates a toxic relationship with yourself. And I know that from firsthand experience, that's not a good environment. That doesn't help you make the progress that you desire to make, because it only discourages you. It's like you're trying to change and you're also beating yourself up for not changing fast enough. It's very discouraging. So if you are in a spot where you're changing, you're doing things, you're learning things, you're figuring it out the best you can, and it just doesn't feel like the progress is happening as quickly as you would like for it to happen, if you can just hear this, is be easier on yourself. Give yourself a break. If you can give yourself some unconditional love, if you can just accept where you are, and at the same time put so much faith and trust and will into, I accept where I am, and I'm also going places and changing and evolving at the same time. If you can give that space to yourself and you can just say, okay, enough with self-scrutiny. I'm doing the best I can. Change is happening, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. I got this. If you can do this for yourself, and if you can experience relief, this is the greatest progress.
Thank you so much. Katerina, where can our listeners find you?
So I will share a couple links with you, but our listeners can simply put my name in the search bar on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm mostly on Facebook. This is kind of my leading platform at the moment. This is where I share a lot of my reflections, and this is where I also talk about the folds every time that a new season arises. So feel free to follow me or send me a friend request. I'm working on a couple of other portals at the moment, but still to this day, this remains the best way to stay connected with me.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
So ask yourself, is this for me? Give yourself some boundaries. Learn to trust your intuition now.
Thanks for listening to the Soulful Valley podcast. I trust that you will have heard something today that you were ready to hear, and that it's made you feel a little lighter, more aligned and connected with your soul's purpose, and you have been reminded of who you really are and the true nature of the power that you hold within you. My aim for this podcast is to bring love, light, wisdom, raise consciousness and ease suffering. If you've enjoyed the show, go back and listen to some of the back catalogue of previous episodes. Subscribe, follow, rate and review so that you're notified when new episodes drop in, and share this podcast with anyone that you think it may help to listen to. You can connect with me at soulfulvalley.com, and if you scroll to the bottom of the website, there are links to my social media platforms.